welcome back to another episode of Footy Thoughts. I'm Joey.
Casey.
We are recording this Tuesday, August 22nd. Big week, a lot of things to talk about. The transfer window is still open, and we're going to get right into it. We'll start out with some new transfer news and then move on to some injuries. A big one that we'll start with is Aymeric Laporte to Saudi Arabia officially. I believe
Another one.
Al Nasser. There's a few teams that definitely could have gone after him, Tottenham included. I wonder with his age and obviously the salary that I think he's 29. He's definitely a little bit older. Do you remember he used to be the guy to go to in like FIFA 14, like Ultimate Team, like 15, 16?
Well, actually, maybe you do. I do remember that.
Athletic Club, remember?
Yeah. Anyways. Oh, yeah. That's right. Yeah.
Anyways, joining him, not in the same team, but Mitrovic is now on his way to Saudi Arabia too for a $52 million package.
It's going to be a gnarly derby. I don't know if that's a derby. I see the owl. And I'm like, oh, yeah, two owls.
It must be rivals. Must be.
Yeah.
And we've got Mavropanos. I'm hoping you know a little bit about him since he's a center back from Stuttgart.
Very good player. Yeah.
To West Ham.
Super good player.
Like 20 mil. Is that
For those of you who don't know, I watch Stuttgart's not random, but I do watch like a lot of random soccer because I work fully remotely. I have a very flexible schedule, luckily, with my work, and I'll have soccer games on in the middle of the day just randomly, mostly because I like to bet on them. But I also just like to watch soccer. And I have watched a large chunk of Stuttgart over the last couple of years. This is a very good get. This is a very, very good get by West Ham. In fact, this might be a hot take. It actually is a hot take. I'm full of them. We all know that. But I think that this guy is on par and level with the talent and skill of Vardiol, who just signed for Man City. Which obviously that was a bigger, more well-known deal, of course. But I genuinely think that this guy is just as good as Vardiol is.
That is definitely a outrageously hot take, but I'm okay with that because I have never seen him play. He's also going to West Ham, so I don't know if I want to see West Ham become any better than they are. We'll move on to Tyler Adams. Have to touch on an American. He's going to Bournemouth from Leeds, from being there a season, I believe. I can't remember if he was like a January transfer or not. And then he has a leg injury still, or some sort of injury that he's still recovering from. So I'm not sure if he will be able to start against Tottenham. We have Nuno Tavares from Arsenal being linked to Nottingham Forest and now Aston Villa. And I forget, but I saw a Digne rumor. I don't know if you saw that being rumored to. If I remembered, I would tell you.
No,
I don't remember.
I know what you're talking about, actually.
Which is funny because he got an assist this week for Villa, and then these rumors popped up afterwards. A loan that was solidified was Hakim Ziyech to Galatasaray. We talked about it last week, but there were rumors about Cancelo to Barca last week. Still nothing going on, but there are some more FAP tweets, so it seems like it has not collapsed yet. And then we've got Kudus, again, another person we talked about last week. A fresh bid was made by West Ham either today or yesterday for 40 mil for the purchase.
Kind of makes the Brighton West Ham game pretty spicy, huh?
Oh, a narrative. I like that.
Didn't think about that, huh?
I did not. Alt over. It screams alt over. And I don't have it written down, but it just reminded me that Manchester City are now officially off. The deal's collapsed for Lucas Paqueta. Did you watch any of that game, the West Ham game?
No, I can't remember what I was doing, but I didn't catch a single minute of that game. Here's my cat again.
Paqueta got the most rogue yellow card. And so in the recent sports or soccer kind of drama going on, Lucas Paqueta is under allegations for not match fixing, but gambling, where he would get yellow cards. Like he wouldn't bet on games.
Allegedly, this is more serious than Ivan Toney's. Like from the information that has come out, people are deeming it. The public is deeming it as this sounds more serious than Ivan Toney, and Ivan Toney got what was it, a 6-month
8
ban,
months.
or what was the
8 months.
8-month ban? So yeah, that'll be, and that's apparently allegedly that's why Man City is now dropping the chase for
Well, the funny
for him.
part was that he got a yellow card in this game, and essentially, I forget who he was holding off, but he was on the touchline holding someone off, and then uh, whoever that Chelsea player tugged at him enough to where Paqueta thought it was a foul. So he stopped and looked at the side judge because he was on the touchline and like, what the heck, like, whatever. And then the Chelsea player went off and they almost scored. And so Paqueta got a yellow card for yelling at the touchline ref for not calling a foul. So the timing was. I remember seeing on FPL Twitter that there was like, look at him, like he's under allegations, like under public eye, and he's still match fixing.
It's funny.
I can't think of anything else. We don't have anything else written down for transfers. Do you have anything?
No, I think that's about it.
All right, we do have a healthy list of injuries / suspensions. We've got Tim Ream getting a red card. We've got Aguerd, the center back from West Ham, getting a red card, and Matthias. Say again.
Wait, Mateus Nunez got a red card too?
Got a red card.
That's a big loss for Wolves. He is probably their best player right now.
McAllister did get one, but it was already rescinded. So he will be available for their game against Newcastle. We've got a couple of injuries, going to go team by team here, or kind of game by game from last week. Luis Diaz and TAA were both subbed with Knox, and I looked it up just before the recording. Diaz will be available, with TAA being more of a like kick to the leg. So it just depends if he has any bruising or swelling that hasn't gone down yet, but they're both expected to at least make the I don't know if they're away, so they're both expected to travel. The Aston Villa Everton game had a few injuries, if you want to go over those.
DCL had a big clash with Emi Martinez, and his whole right side of his face is completely ballooned, like big, like black eye, and just his cheekbone got fucked up. But they officially put him in concussion protocol, so DCL will not be playing, at least in this next game week. And then I can't remember what happened to Alex Iwobi, but I remember having a sinking feeling like he's not going to be here for a while. So our allegedly best goal scorer is out, and our best chance creator is out. That's all I have to say on that bullshit.
Where does he fit in there?
Fun fact, I just joined a new soccer team here in Austin, Texas. There's a guy on my team that is a doppelganger of Neil Maupay. It's actually wild. You know what's fucking funny too? I play goalie, by the way, and we had practice yesterday, and we were doing shooting drills. This kid could not shoot the ball, and he plays striker. And he looks exactly like Neil Maupay. I am not kidding. This is actually a thing. I kind of want to take a picture of him and like upload it and like share it with you guys.
Just call him Neil Maupay. Will he get the
for real?
Does he know soccer enough?
I don't know. I don't know these guys yet. I don't know like any of them. So I'm too scared to like go up to him and say, hey, you look like Neil Maupay. And he's like, what? You're like, never mind.
Yeah, that's it. Joke's over.
Anyways, yeah, still very frustrating. A lot of people were giving him slack in my Everton forums, saying, you know what, Neil actually looked pretty good. He didn't score, go figure, but he looked pretty good. And I don't care about that sentiment anymore, because I've been off this fucking guy since mid last year. He's not good enough for the Prem. He's not good enough for any team in the Premier League. I'm sorry. I know you want him to work out, but he's not. He is not. Get it through your skull, and we need to sign another fucking striker. Go figure. Anyways.
Okay, so back to injury talk. Not Casey hates Everton talk. In that same game, not that they're, I don't say important players, but for Aston Villa, Coutinho's out for about 3 weeks with a hamstring, and then Leon Bailey was subbed with a knock, but he is expected to be okay. Someone who is not okay, though, is Carney Chukwuemeka. I will always butcher names, so just bear with me. But the Chelsea player, he got subbed at halftime in that game against West Ham, and he has already had surgery and will be out for 6 weeks. So that is 2 Chelsea players, both who are and expected to play the number 10 when healthy, are now out for these string of games they got, which we'll talk about later on, which is it's going to be a very big deal because Jackson is one of those FPL assets that everyone's looking at besides Chilwell. However, that second half, Jackson didn't register a single shot on target, not even on targets in general. It's because they'd have any service coming to the middle of the field besides Enzo, but he's one of the deeper playing center mids. Finally, we will go to James Madison, who suffered a MCL sprain and will be out for 10 days. He will miss...
Because of course he did.
You missed the game against Bournemouth, and then he will also miss our midweek game against Fulham. I forget if it's the FA Cup or the Carabao Cup game. I cannot remember which one it is. I think it's Carabao Cup. But he will miss out on that. That is all I have for injuries. Anything off the top of your head before we move on?
No.
Okay, so we will now move on over to our game week 2 review and takeaways as well. I think it's pretty clear to start with this Brighton team that not only have picked up where they left off last year, but they have won both games 4-1 to start the season.
Yep.
I think there was an injury actually in Ciso. There's an injury speculation there, but I don't even know if that's going to be that big of a concern the way they rotate their lineup. Another person we'll touch on later is João Pedro, and how he kind of trolled the FPL community. But there's something we talked about last week.
Troll them, fucking De Zerbi, or whatever the fuck his name is.
Well, that's what we talked about last week. Is that we expect these players? You said it. He's the new bald fraud, even though he's not bald. He's the new Pep.
I did say that before game week 1. I said he's going to be the new Pep, at least in the attack, because a lot of people complain about City's defense in FPL and who the hell Pep is going to start at defense. But I said De Zerbi is going to be the bald fraud of attack in Brighton, which is going to be plentiful with goals. So it's going to frustrate a lot of people.
An interesting thought will be if Matoma and March fall under that rotation, I guess, umbrella of sorts, because they have both started. They've started both games when Welbeck started. I forget who started striker the first game. I think Pedro was the 9, and there was someone else. But then Welbeck started this game against against Wolves.
Welbeck started at the 9, game week 1.
So it was in Ciso and it was in Ciso and João Pedro that. Okay.
Yeah, it was.
Anything you want to add on to that with Brighton before we move on?
No, I mean they looked great. I mean from an FPL perspective, because that's probably the most relevant thing to talk about with them, scoring 8 goals in the first 2 game weeks. Who is the most nailed on Brighton's attack? To be honest, I thought it was going to be their record-breaking signing in João Pedro, who's also slated to take pen, someone who they've been scouting for over 2 years now.
Who's already taking a pen too.
This is who I thought was going to be, and they got rid of Dennis Undav on loan, which even solidifies his. I thought he was going to be the most nailed, but in hindsight, I do think it's going to be Matoma and March. I think that they are the most nailed on the wing, and I don't think they have much competition to displace them, especially Matoma. I guess De Zerbi is one of those coaches that likes his tenured players, someone who's been with them, trusted. Matoma puts in a fucking shift every single week. He puts in a shift, so I get it. I think it's frustrating because obviously Matoma is one of the highest owned players in the whole game before game week 1, and I love the guy. I was so hype about him last year and all this kind of stuff, but I had hoped that there would have been another player that kind of branched through that really became the good FPL asset. I thought that was going to be João Pedro, but it wasn't. It is still Matoma. Matoma is probably the most nailed and talented guy on Brighton right now.
All right, let me stop you real quick because we are going to talk about the Brighton West Ham game in week 3, and we can come back around and finish our thoughts on that. But we'll move on to the 2 big games we covered last week. Manchester City versus Newcastle and Tottenham versus Manchester United. both City and Tottenham kept clean sheet wins. Unfortunately, I didn't get to watch any of the City United Newcastle game, but I did get to watch some of the Tottenham Manchester United game, and the first half went exactly how I thought it would. Manchester United had plenty of chances to score. Vicario, our new signing, our new number one goalie, 6 saves of the game, had plenty of good opportunities to be tested. Not due to bad defense, however, it was just United playing these kind of balls around the corner of the 18 and hitting in crosses that caught our defenders off, because you had Bruno miss a header, you had Rashford miss a header, a few block shots here and there, but United had plenty of chances. I think they accumulated over 1 xg in the first half. But then Tottenham come out, get that very early goal in the second half with Pape Sarr, who is the Yaya Toure 2.0, and I will mark that now. I guarantee. I don't guarantee it. I don't guarantee it.
Sorry.
Sorry,
Say it again.
I don't want to put too much pressure on the 20-year-old, but I bet he gets. I bet he gets a return.
Be the next Yaya Toure. Yeah. No fucking pressure.
I bet he gets a return against Bournemouth, or at least the hockey assist. I mean, he's going to start alongside Bissouma in the midfield, and he had 4 shots in that United game now.
And there was a sharp-ass motherfucker on TikTok who put $500 on him to score first, on Pape Sarr to score first for Tottenham, $500. He won $12,000. Shout out that guy. You're a fucking
first goal scorer.
Well
and then
done.
we got lucky afterwards with a Lissandro Martinez own goal, or a Ben Davies goal. I forgot what it was actually credited, but Ben Davies nearly whiffed on the ball, but you could see when he turned around to celebrate, he's like, I touched it, like telling people that he scored the goal. A narrative that I haven't developed yet, I think on record, but I have developed in person, is that Son, even though he is the captain, unless we need the attacking threat, we're going to see him subbed off a little earlier. And he was, I think he played all 90 against Brentford, but in this United game, we're still trying to score that second goal, seal the game, and move on. Perisic comes in, and I loved Perisic at left wing during the preseason. He was so creative. He was amazing out there. And here you go, within 5 minutes, 10 minutes of coming on, he hits this through ball to Ben Davies, who, again, either touched it or didn't, whatever. It directly led to a goal. I think we're going to see more Perisic kind of make his way, get 20, 25 minutes, especially if we're down and chasing a goal too, which is kind of sad. I think
I'd like to add on. Go ahead.
I think the Son train is, even though he's the captain's man, he's trending down, unfortunately.
I want to add on to this because I entirely agree. And I love the player. He's actually one of my favorite players in the Prem for the past couple of years. But I just want to put it a lot more bluntly than what Joey did. The Kane-Son combo was the meta of FPL for the past couple of years, right? Like having both of them in your team, and there would be times when they combined for 4 different goals in the same game, just the 2 of them. Like that was their thing. That's why they became so like popular together. To put it bluntly, Kane leaves Tottenham. No matter what else Tottenham does in the market or anything like that, Son's productivity will go down. It'll go down. It doesn't matter if you got the captain armband. It doesn't matter what the new coach is going to use him in what role or anything like that. If Kane and Son had that kind of partnership, which they did, and Son benefited greatly from the world-class player that Harry Kane is, when Harry Kane leaves, his production lowers. You know what? Here's another reason why this is true. A lot of people didn't realize this, but when Sadio Mane left Liverpool, Salah's productivity dropped. It plummeted. They also had a relationship like that. They also had a Sane to Salah and Salah to Sane relationship that was great for FPL and just for the overall production of Liverpool. That dropped off when Sadio Mane left. I think people underestimated that how big of a loss Sadio Mane from Liverpool was. So that's one thing to keep note of, is players who have that kind of relationship, and one of them leaves, the other one is going to be badly affected. That's common sense.
The last thing to talk about on this before we kind of just talk about the City game before and then move on is that Son is 31 years old. We have Richie, who I can't remember his exact age, but he's around that 25, 26 mark.
26, I think.
You have Kulusevski outright, who's 23, 24. And then you have James Madison and Basuma, who are 26. And then Sarr, who's 20. Pedro Porro, 23. Udogi, 19 or 20. Romero, 23. Van de Ven. Like, we have a young squad now. And if you live under a rock, you don't know that Son's personality is amazing. And I don't want to say he's a natural leader, but he is someone that everyone in the locker room, the dressing room is going to love. So I was bringing up making him the captain, but it wouldn't surprise me if we see his playing time decrease and it becomes more of the locker room captain. Because James Madison and Cuti Romero, when Son's not on the field, James Madison or Cuti Romero will wear the captain bands because they were both the vice captains. So moving on from that.
Oh my God.
Just keep jumping up.
Going in a circle. He's just I'll talk briefly. Yeah, I'll talk briefly on it was super slow.
Foden too. Talk about Foden because I know he had a bunch of chances created.
Yeah, so Foden got man of the match, and he had 7 chances created, 3 shots, 1 shot on target, which the expected goals on target for that 1 shot was 0.64, so it was a great save from Nick Pope. Foden had a good game. I think really I'm not huge on Foden. I never really had. I hated his body language during this game. Every single time. Yes. Every single time one of his teammates did something that wasn't the most perfect thing for Phil Foden, he was like, it's like, fuck you, dude. Grow up. You're 23 already. Anyways, I got pissed at that, but he did play well. Created a ton of chances. I mean, he's sliding into a Kevin De Bruyne type of role that I think suits his skill set well. I think he's playing with a lot of excitement because he knows he's kind of taking over that role right now. I don't know. I don't like the kid. I don't like his attitude. I don't like really anything about him, but he is a really good soccer player on a really good team. So that's that. Julian Alvarez actually looked pretty damn good. I know you've been kind of on his sneaky train as your second forward for a while. Don't mind it at all. I like him in that position. Another person I want to talk about is Rodri. Joey said last week, do not knee-jerk Rodri in after he had a great FPL week after game week 1. And here's what happened. Me and my other buddy, we bet on Rodri to get shots and do something in this game against Newcastle. And you know what? Rodri got an 8.3 rating. Incredible. Great game from Rodri. 0 shots, 0 chances created. He slid right back into that classic CDM holding distribution Sergio Busquets type of role. He slid right back into it, and that's why you shouldn't knee-jerk Rodri in after he's that shiny 5.5, City midfielder that had a great return in game week 1. He is a true CDM. He always will be. And his heat map even said that. Kovacic was a lot more advanced than Rodri was in this game. It was really fucking frustrating to watch. I think another thing I want to talk about real quick for Man City assets, I'm kind of going on a train here. Kyle Walker. I've been on him since before game week 1. He just signed a big extension. He's been a trusted Man City player. I know he's getting old. He's 33, but he just signed a big extension, and Pep trusts him. And there's nobody else who can play his position as well as he can. I know there's a lot of question marks on who's going to be where in that defense, but Kyle Walker is a mainstay for it. And actually, his heat map is a lot more advanced than it was last year. Last year, he was playing a hybrid right back, right center back type of deal, but he really wasn't bombing forward at all. This year, he's actually getting forward. His heat map shows that he is in the same position as Grealish, but on the other side of the pitch. So he's a lot more advanced. He's a little bit cheaper. I think Kyle Walker, he's super low owned. I can't remember his ownership, but
he's already gone up to 5.1, I believe.
Yeah, from probably like 1%. I mean, he was super low ownership. But to be honest, guys, I believe Kyle Walker is the most nailed City defender in this squad at this point.
I'm not trying to kill the vibe, but I will say Bernardo Silva is returning to training, and obviously Bernardo Silva plays that way outright winger position. However,
Good point.
Again, I don't want to throw that out there because I
He
like
plays
where
more
you're going.
centrally,
I
though.
like that
Plays more
hype. Well,
centrally, though.
we're going to see one of Foden or Alvarez get rotated because Grealish has that left wing spot kind of
Take
knocked
Phil
down.
Foden out. Take that little rat fuck out of there.
Get him out of here. Okay, we'll quickly talk about
All right.
Brentford and Fulham, and then we'll let you get your rant in, and then we'll move on to preview of week 3.
Okay.
However, we're moving on, or whatever word to describe what we're doing next. Brentford attack. I hate it, but they're relevant. They got Visa, whatever at striker.
It's been relevant, but they're
They
coming
have been, but
But
I
they're
just
still
think it
relevant.
has. I think it's fixture related. I'm going to tell myself that it's fixture related. I will start with their first fixture against Tottenham. Do you know how they scored their goals? A very questionable penalty call that Son made a challenge on one of the players, and then you had Wissa, whatever, hit a shot that was going to be easily saved by Vicario. But then here comes Van de Ven sliding in, trying to be a hero for his first game, deflects it over.
0.08 XG on target for that shot.
I didn't watch any of this Fulham game, so I will not talk about that. That's a game I do expect him to play well on. However, the next thing that kind of leads into talking about is this Fulham defense and how leaky they've been. Granted, they won 1-0 against Everton, but they had, I think Malpe had 2 XG on his own. Like any other normal striker, at least gets one of those goals. And then you have Tim Ream get a red card against Brentford.
Malpe?
I don't know.
What are you talking about, Malpe?
Didn't he miss those 2 chances in the first game week?
Brentford Fulham or Fulham?
Well, no, I was talking about Brentford, and then they played Fulham in the second game week.
Oh, I see what you're saying.
And so I was leading from that to Fulham having a leaky defense.
No, Everton definitely should have scored versus Fulham. Leno had one of the best games of his career. So
that's a quick kind of review takeaway on that is that Brentford has on paper put up goals and have scored, but I think it's not going to be maintainable. I forget who I talked about last week where I was like, I don't think it's going to be a maintainable thing. Maybe it might have been in Buemo or in Brent. I don't know. I can't remember what it was. But then for sure, one to watch out for, and one we'll talk about later, is this Fulham defense, especially with Tim Ream getting a red card. They play Arsenal at Arsenal, and I do expect that to be a bloodbath. But please, before we move on to week 3,
before we move
on to week 3, oh shoot, it's a Leno revenge game.
Yeah. Good luck, buddy.
Okay, I'm glad I didn't choose that to my lock. Okay, please talk about your week 3. Oh, talk about your essay before we move on.
I just want to for all the FPL players out here that are having some frustrating starts to this year. It do be that way sometimes, and it's happening to me. That's for sure. So just a quick list of all the things that went wrong for me. Week 1, I decided to get frisky and captain Rashford instead of Holland. Rashford got 2 points, and Holland scored a brace. We all know this. Deadline day of week 1, I knee-jerked Maddison out for Richarlison, who didn't do anything game week 1, and Maddison got 2 assists and a bunch of BP. Friday, game week 1, again, deadline day of that game week 1. Gabriel, we texted and I saw this little rumor of this random not random, but this Twitter user who said Gabriel's going to be out. I would have taken him out of my team. I would have collapsed and been like, okay, sure. I would have taken someone else. I would have fucking fell for it. I don't care if it was fake or not. I would have fell for it. I was on a work call. And I had Gabriel in my team, and he obviously did what he did. I was so hot with that Pickford-Turner rotation, with that Jordan Pickford, Matt Turner rotation. I started Pickford game week 1. We lose 1-0 to Fulham in the most heart-stabbing way I could possibly imagine. And then Matt Turner has a great game, but concedes that one stupid goal in game week 2. No clean sheets for my goalies over here.
Mm-hmm.
And then the big icing on the cake. Then we had João Pedro no start, which is just fucking annoying. But I
It
guess
affected
I
everyone, to be fair, on that
could
one.
have expected that. Sure, whatever. Ollie Watkins not getting a goal, and fucking Douglas Luiz taking the penalty. I'm just like, when did that happen? When did that fucking happen? And then the fucking icing on the cake was a fucking Odegaard take the goddamn penalty, dude. I was just like, I'm quitting game week 2. Like, it's already here. Usually it comes around like
Sorry.
February next year, but it's fucking right now. Anyways, it do be that way sometimes. It do be that way. It really do.
Long story short, it do be that way.
Yeah.
You should just go back and play Fantasy MLS if you can't handle Fantasy Premier League.
Well, I'm gonna have Messi captain in my fantasy MLS team, so maybe I can just go live through that.
Okay. Let's talk about week 3. I'm going to quickly read out the schedule. We have a Friday game at 2 p.m., so it's going to meet a 12:30 FPL deadline. We have Chelsea against Luton Town, and then the 6:30 game will be Bournemouth versus Tottenham. And to start the 9 a.m. slate on Saturday will be Arsenal Fulham, Brentford at home to Palace, Everton at home to Wolves, United home to Forest, and then our 11:30 a.m. game will be Brighton against West Ham. Moving on to Sunday, our 2 8 a.m. games will be Burnley at home to Villa, Sheffield at home to Manchester City, and then our Sunday late morning 10:30 kickoff will be Newcastle versus Liverpool, which will be a fantastic game.
Great game.
And that is the game we will start out with talking about. Newcastle at home against Liverpool. If you remember from last year, we had this exact fixture, and you and I were both high on Liverpool, and they ended up winning 2-0. But I think Pope got a red card early in that game. Yeah,
I had Liverpool money line as my lock. Yeah,
I think it's going to be a different story this year, especially with how, and again, we talked about this last episode, and maybe even the one before that, how we are, specifically me, is just not a fan of this Liverpool team, specifically their midfield. And we sort of saw that with Bournemouth in their game when, any kind of press, especially with Bournemouth having just in general bigger midfielders than McAllister. Like, I think Tonali can take on Szoboszlai easily. I think he can take on Mac 10 easily. And then they have Joelinton.
Or can he take on Endo?
Endo's like 5'9".
Question. He's like 5'9", 140 pounds. So
Newcastle attackers are good enough to where one-on-one they can hold their own with Liverpool defense. I just think it's going to happen in this midfield. And for Newcastle just to simply have more physical players, bigger players than Liverpool's midfield, and it being at St. James Park, I think this could end up not being an easy win, maybe more of like a 2-0, 2-1, just because it is a big game, and Salah can have his moment or whatever, get a lucky penalty call and score a penalty, and that's it. But he's amazing. Not really. However, that's what I think. I think Newcastle have this game.
Yeah, I'm with you on that. Their midfield isn't there yet. It's simple as that. Simple as that.
You're making me want to change my lock right now, but I will not do that.
I'm wanting to change mine.
I'm making myself want to change it, but
one of us should have it. That's for
maybe
sure.
our third viewer can make that their lock, and they can parlay it all together. Maybe.
Yeah.
Wow. The other game we wanted to talk about was the Brighton West Ham game, and so we've kind of already spoke about Brighton a good bit, but just to reiterate, and it's kind of in the same argument as Brentford. It would be the who have they played argument. Brighton have played Luton Town, and they've played Wolves. And now we saw United against Wolves. That ended up being a 1-0 game with Wolves having very good performance, but then we saw them play Brighton, and it was 3-0 in the first 30, 40 minutes. With West Ham getting that convincing win against Chelsea, now I'm not comparing Chelsea and Brighton attack, but it showed that Chelsea at least had some structure to their defense. That it was a home game, but and on top of that, they're getting that new defensive siding in, that Greek player. What's his name? Mavropanos?
Mavropanos, yeah, something like that.
just how I think Brentford, Crystal Palace this week. I think Brentford, Crystal Palace, and Brighton, West Ham will be two close games. Now, this is not a hot take to say that a soccer game will end with only a 1 goal difference or a draw because it's soccer, but I don't think you're going to see Brentford win 3-0, and I don't think you're going to see Brighton win 4-1 again, if that makes sense. I think they're
Yeah.
going to be more of an even playing field, more of an even competition here. What about you?
Yeah. No, I agree with you. The more I look at it, the more I really believe there's going to be goals again in Brighton West Ham. 10 total goals in Brighton's past 2 fixtures. Um, I don't think West Ham keeps a clean sheet. That's for sure.
Well, they're
And to be
away.
honest, right, I
Yeah.
don't think West Ham keeps a
Correct.
clean sheet. And I don't think Brighton keeps a clean sheet either. West Ham they're kind of doing some stuff right now. They're doing some stuff.
Hockey
So
Loki. And they got Edson
low-key,
Alvarez who got his minutes against Chelsea too.
the more I look at this, the more there are goals in this game. I don't see there being any clean sheets either way, but I see a lot of goals. So get your FPL assets ready because I see this could potentially be another 4-1 Brighton. Or it could be like a 3-3 or some bullshit like that. I see goals in this game for sure.
You see goals, but you don't like.
I can't highlight.
I truly think Brighton don't get like. I would be surprised if they win by 2.
Really?
If West Ham in the game with all their players. If there's a red card, obviously it makes sense that they can win by 2, 3, whatever amount. But I really think this will be a closer game than what we expect to see.
I would say that's probably like a 2-1 or a 3-2 either way, or a 2-2. I agree with you with the close game perspective, but I think there's going to be goals in it for sure.
Not a lot of big games to talk about this week. You have your big team against little team in Chelsea, Luton, and City, Sheffield, and you've got
Your relegation battles with Everton and Wolves.
So I guess that is a game of importance. Obviously, way too early in the year to talk about that, but also not unfair to assume that those two will be candidates. But then, like we said, Brentford Palace, West Ham, United or West Ham against Brighton. Not necessarily a mid-table team because Brighton finished so high last year, but that's kind of you always think of the kind of middle of the pack team. So
yeah,
still obviously going to be fun to watch. These games are going to be good. We can move on to FPL, but if there's any game you want to talk about before we move on, we can go ahead and do that.
This is a weird slate this weekend, people. This is
It's a weird slate gambling wise to find our lock too.
Gambling wise, for sure. It's a really bad slate this weekend for soccer betting. That's for sure. FPL wise too. I mean, these games are just
Well, hold on. Speak for yourself because I'll let you know what the problem I'm dealing with over here on my side. But that was our preview of week 3, and we will go ahead and move on to our FPL recap. And I'll start out, and you can go into your Odegaard, Saka pen take, but I just loved everyone starting Matt Turner, except for a select few people, just because so many people were doing it, so therefore they didn't want to do it because everyone else was doing it. But I had nothing else to do, but I watched the Sheffield Nottingham Forest game like the schmuck I am, and I just sat there and I watched, and I didn't see a single shot on target in the first half. I'm like, I just know it's happening. He's going to have maybe 2 saves, and he's going to allow a goal. And I can't even tell you who Sheffield's main signing is, or their new signing. Gets the ball out of the clearance in the corner.
Who's actually
no.
Sorry.
That's not who I'm talking about. It's the guy who scored. It's like their number 10.
Hammer.
Hammer, yeah.
You didn't know about the Gustavo Hammer, bro?
He's from. Oh, you know what? I think he's from Coventry, and I think he had double-digit goals last year for them, if I'm correct. Anyways, gets the ball atop the box. Perfect curler, upper 90. And what sucked is that Matt Turner made such a sick save later on in the game. Like it was just a one-on-one with the player. You got to feel for him. His first game was against Arsenal, where he has a Saka worldie, so he's in back-to-back games with a worldie, and then a huge deflected goal from Nketiah.
Yeah.
I didn't disagree with the play because I actually liked the matchup. I didn't mind it, but man, so unlucky.
Yeah, it's tough. It's tough for Matt Turner. Still a great keeper. Like, keep him as the 4.0. You might as well. Like, he'll rack up saves. Yeah, he got so unlucky in these first 2 game weeks.
And then, I mean, I don't want to open up any wounds, but the Odegaard did take the penalty over Saka. It is reported that supposedly Arteta had no idea.
It's like it's up to the players on the field. I'm like, cool, thanks,
Cool, sounds
Caillou.
good. Which makes sense that the captain takes the penalty. It's not that Saka. Well, actually, Saka might be, off the penalties though, even because he missed that one in preseason. And I don't know if you saw Odegaard's penalty, but it was smooth. A little stutter step.
Of course it was.
Planted the foot, sent the goalie, and just tucked it right inside the post. It was a nice penalty. We can. You want to talk about João Pedro and Gabriel, or do you want to leave that one alone too, since you already had it in your little rant?
No, I already had it in my little rant. João Pedro is going to start next game. He's not going to get benched again. So if you're thinking about knee-jerking him out because he didn't start that one game, good luck with that. It's just the deal of the deep, high-scoring team. This is what the deal's going to be. Your player's not going to start every now and then. It's not going to start every now and then.
As you say that, I literally knee-jerked Pedro out for Alvarez.
Okay. And I know a ton of fucking people are going to do that.
But here's my thinking.
It's fair.
My thinking is that short-term view, and I'm still going to be a victim of Pep Roulette because I even brought it up myself. Bernardo Silva is going to be back. But I've got consistent Alvarez starts and returns. I've got him playing Sheffield, West Ham, and Fulham, I believe, in the next 3. When I have João Pedro, whose fixtures are going to get tougher with West Ham, Newcastle, and Manchester United. So you're giving me a player, one who I know is going to start in Alvarez, and one who I don't know when he's going to start. I know he'll start, but I don't know when. So give me the player that also is on a, I don't say better team, but I would say attacking wise, it's like a 1A, 1B thing.
And that specific comparison, I that's absolutely fair.
And also I needed to do it because I have $1 million in the bank. So I do not advocate early transfers because it is Tuesday.
Don't wild card. If I can hold strong with all these fucking issues, you can too. Don't wild card yet. Just don't do it.
But I did fall victim to early price rises. So I dodged a Pedro fall and I got an Alvarez rise. So very happy about that. And like you said, don't wild card. It's literally game week 2. After this, I think there's one more game week 4 and then then an international break. So just hold on.
Take a 4-point hit if you need to. There's nothing wrong with that.
Yeah.
There's nothing wrong with that. Downgrade one of your players who's not performing to maybe an overperforming or just performing well, cheaper player, and then take a -4 to get a really good player in. Just change 2 players this week. You don't have to wild card. I promise you. You want it later.
And we don't have to go into depth, but Mitoma and Mbeumo, those were some pretty popular preseason picks that have obviously gone off. We've already touched on them a little bit, but personally, I don't expect Mbeumo to keep it up. You told me about how Mitoma is essential to the team and how he's putting in a shift game in, game out. So I can see that continuing. I don't see him scoring 2 goals a game every game. Obviously, no one expects that.
Not at all. He's an assist guy. He's never been a super crazy goal scorer.
Before we move on to betting, I've gone a little bit long, but I have a real dilemma. I have a starting 11 and then 2 players on my bench I want to play. I've got Shaw at home, Chilwell at home, Estupiñán at home, Saliba at home, Bruno Rashford at home, Odegaard Saka at home. Obviously, I have to play Haaland, and I just can't. I can't bench Eze, and I have Julian Alvarez and Udogie on the bench, who I feel like I really have to play Udogie just off his heat map and him being in countless highlights against United, like in the box while we're attacking, which I just don't get, like in a central role, not like him playing the ball and he is there ready to receive a pass. So that is going to be my dilemma. Probably Alvarez in for Shaw, just because I can see Forrest getting a goal with that being a rivalry The Manchester United Nottingham Forest is a rivalry from way before we were born. Then I don't think I'm going to find a spot for you, Doki. So that's something that I will be dealing with on this week. I will never pray for injuries, but maybe Ben Dinnery, FPL Twitter injury guru, lets us know beforehand if someone's out or if Salib is out this week instead of Gabriel. So that will be our FPL recap. We will quickly talk about our betting recap to end off the episode. We went 1 win and 1 push. So we had a very positive week this week. Casey hit on his over 2.5 bet Wolves against Brighton. And then I took our system bet Crystal Palace +1 against Arsenal. Questionable no call on the Eze tackle. I didn't get to watch actually after the Tomiyasu red card. So I don't know how attacking Crystal Palace was, but they did only lose 1-0. So therefore we got a push on our bet. So why don't you go ahead and talk about your lock for this week?
Okay. Like I said before, from a gambling perspective, this is a very bad slate this weekend. So no blame if you just don't want to participate at all. I would think that's a smart move. My lock this weekend is going to be Burnley to grab a point versus at home to Aston Villa this weekend. So Aston Villa is traveling to Scotland midweek, and then they're coming back to play away at Burnley, who has had a rest over the last game week after losing to City at home 3-0, but looking pretty darn good in the process, at least from a just promoted perspective. So they'll be playing a tired Villa, who maybe might not even have their starters out. And I believe in this company, Burnley. I don't think they'll get relegated. I think they'll be a good team. I'm not saying they're going to win this game 3-0 or anything like that. But for them to grab a point at home versus a rotated Aston Villa, I think is a pretty good shout.
All right. And I will quickly talk about my in the mud, in the trenches take here. Like Casey said, I could not find anything. The slate was so gross. I don't mind that Newcastle pick, but I will stick with mine with the Friday game, Chelsea, Luton Town. I'm going to take both teams to score. Yes.
Spicy.
Again, Luton Town's another one of those teams that had the week 2 bye. They did get that penalty against Brighton. And in that same way that, Casey's taking Burnley, Luton went after their game week 1 game. They didn't just sit back on the road. Burnley at home, Luton on the road. They went after it. And so for Chelsea to lose 3-1 against West Ham away, I don't expect them, especially this kind of Chelsea narrative in general, that they are not winning games. They don't have a system. There's too much rotation. They spent so much money on their team. They spent 115 on Caicedo, and he gives away that clunky pin. Like, there's so much negative around Chelsea. So, to be honest, I really could see this being like Luton getting the first goal and then Chelsea coming back and winning. So it still hits for both teams to score. Yes.
Yep.
All right. Those are our 2 locks. Please feel free to take a lock of your own, bet them all single or parlay them with ours. But that is it for week 3. We are Footy Thoughts. Follow us on Instagram, TikTok, YouTube. Not Instagram, excuse me, Twitter.
You always say we have an Instagram, and we never do.
I don't know. I don't think we need one because I don't know what we would do with it. Maybe, but I just read off socials: Twitter, TikTok, Spotify, YouTube. Yeah, at Footy Thoughts. Give us a follow. Leave us a comment on whatever. I would love, honestly, to finally have like a question section. That'd be pretty cool where we answer that.
Yeah, someone ask a question. That'd be great.
Any question. Doesn't have to be soccer related. All right. So that was Footy Thoughts week 3. See you guys next week.
Peace.
48 minutes.